January 27th Public Facilities Committee is called to order at 3:52. If everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. Give me 1 second to pull my agenda back up. All right. If I can get a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion.
Second that?
All right, thank you. And can I also get a motion for the approval of the minutes from November 18th, 2024?
Make the motion to approve them.
Say again? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Do we, going back to number 4 for the approval of the agenda, we had a motion and a second. Or is there any objection to the approval of the agenda? Seeing no objection, it is approved. Moving on to the approval of the minutes for November 18th, 2024. I believe we had a motion.
I'll make the motion.
And do we have a second?
I'll second. Second.
Okay. Is there any objection to the approval of the minutes? Seeing no objections, it is approved. Do we have any citizens' comment, either in the room or online? All right, so citizens' comment will be closed. And moving into items originating from the engineering department, the first one is an ordinance authorizing the county administrator to execute any and all necessary documents for the acceptance of S-859 located at SC 462 and SC 170, which is to be abandoned by SC DOT. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right. What about a second? Second, thank you. Is there any discussion on this? Mr. Fralix?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair and Committee. So this is a section of road. This is S89. That's DOT's nomenclature. This is a section of the road in between ACE and the triangle portion, about 3 acres that was purchased last year, Cooler Track B. It's essentially the old alignment of SC 170. When they redid that back in about 20 years ago, that was left as essentially the driveway to ACE. And so what we're doing is coordinating with DOT for the acquiring that portion of the road and what that provides for. So that's the parcel that we bought last fall, and then just to the north of this line is the road that we're talking about. So 462 is to the left, 170 is the east-west road. And so this is no-named S589 and 859. And the goal is for us to acquire that, so then if we do anything with that triangle property or coordinate with ACE, we don't have to go through an encroachment permit process with DOT. Then it would just be coordination between us and ACE on whatever those improvements would look like.
Are there any questions for Jared on this one?
And there's no costs involved. This would be an acquisition straight from DOT to us.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions? Do we have any objections to this, moving this forward without objections? Seeing no objections, this is approved. Item 8 is a resolution to accept funding pursuant to South Carolina Act 226 for fiscal year 2024 to 2025, State Appropriations Act in the amount of $1.2 million for the All Enjoy Boat Landing Improvement Project. May I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you. Yeah, so this is going to be a resolution to accept $1.2 million of direct appropriations through DNR for the All Joy Boat Landing. This is a direct allocation. This is not a grant, so there's no match requirement. There is reporting that goes along with it, but this is just a direct appropriation in the state budget.
Any questions for Brian at this time?
No, I just want to state that this actually came from Mr. Weston Newton, who got this money for us through the state, and also Mr. Herb Kurzman. So again, if you see them, and again, the All Joy folks, let them know, because again, this is something that came directly as a result of Mr. Newton and Mr. Herb Kurzman.
We thank our state delegation on this, getting this approved. Is there any further comment or questions on this?
I have a question. Is this the 2 million that Weston Newton got from the state to give to us for tearing down the house?
So the way it all came about was, we were looking and considering selling the house to be able to have some funds to pay for the landing.
Right.
So the plan was for us to, again, take as much property as we could, sell the house, and recoup some money, and use that money to fix up the landing that's there, because again, we didn't have any money any other place. So Mr. Newton was able to get this money, so that way we don't have to sell the property. And from this point forward, we've had a meeting down there, Mr. Moore, we've gone down there. There has not been a decision yet as to what we're doing yet. I mean, nothing's been confirmed. The plan is to tear down the house, because again, we can expand then the parking and do more things down there. But again, that has not been finalized. Am I correct, Mr. Moore?
That's correct. And item number 9 on this agenda, we will take that up as far as the resolution to what we're going to do with the funding. This is just the acceptance on this item.
Okay, so number 8 is acceptance, number 9.
Correct. And number 9, we'll
okay.
talk about what we're going to do with the
Because I'm
funding.
not up for tearing down that house.
And we can obviously go to number 9.
Number 9, okay.
Right,
Well,
assuming you
let's
approve
handle
number 8.
first. Is
Yes.
there any objection to accepting this appropriation? Seeing no objection, this will be approved without objection. And moving into number 9, perfect segue for it. So a resolution for the All Joy Boat Landing improvements. Brian, are you doing presenting this, or Jared? Okay. Oh, can I get a motion and a second to open this up for discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Who made the motion first? Tab?
Tab,
Paula, you made the second?
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so exactly, perfect segue, so thank you for that. So do a quick recap of what we have going on in the All Joy area. So over the last 2 years, we've had several community meetings with them on various topics, not including the boat landing, but others to include stormwater, pathways, and Beaufort Jasper has a water and sewer project in the area planned. In 2023, we had a boat landing master plan that we looked at all the boat landings throughout the county and what the proposed improvements would be. And one of the top priorities as identified in the plan was expanding boat lands wherever possible. So in that same year, in 2023, the adjacent property to Mullet Street became available on the market. So council moved forward to purchase that property. And then with that, we had that, and the discussion was, what are we going to do? And through a community meeting, that's where Representative Newton said, hey, if I get more funds from the state, would that be something we could expand the parking or make public restrooms? So that funding was put in the state budget in FY25, so this current year. But between then, last year, we had already received some A&H tax dollars, local county A&H tax dollars, to do some repairs and replacement. And so last year in 2024, we actually replaced the floating dock that was replaced. It was a straight, and we've replaced it since with an L shape, expanded a little bit. And then also, upon further evaluation, we had purchased the property already, and there was a residential dock attached to the parcel, but under further exploration, it wasn't in a good shape for public use, so we removed that, and we haven't yet come up with a full plan on what was going to be at the boat land, or at the boat landing area. So just this past January 7th, a couple weeks ago, we hosted a meeting at the library, at Bluffton Branch Library, and there was probably about 50 or 60 people there, and 4 council members, Mr. Lawson and Vice Chair, our Chair and Vice Chair, and Ms. Brown were all there. And we had a rudimentary drawing. This is kind of hand sketched in a just by staff, hand sketched and then put in a computer. And what we talked about was just the opportunities to tease out with the community what the things that they would find of interest in the boat landing here. And essentially, the goal of that meeting, and now the goal to bring a resolution to council, is to define what the project is and to give staff direction for us to develop a project and put this into implementation. So use the funds that we have from A&H tax plus the funds that we've secured from the state through Representative Newton. And in doing so, if we flip to the resolution, so I can talk through the key points. And basically what we try to do is to take the information gained through that community, this most recent community meeting, and to try to put that in a format that is, obviously we don't have any design done yet, but to say, okay, staff, this is what you're chartered to go forward and do. And so the major thing that we heard was this is a boat landing. We want it to be a boat landing, so anything you can do to expand parking, boat parking, is our top priority. Secondly to that, there's a lot of golf carts in the area that people use, so golf cart parking, but what they didn't want is it to be a park light and attract more regular visitors, just cars. So that's the kind of order of priority of parking that they desired. Another thing that was key to this area as well as other parts of the county was water quality. So we talked about different types of pavement types and stormwater treatments. But essentially, I think the message that we heard from county staff was we just want to make sure that we're responsible with our stormwater. So whether that's through asphalting or rocking or whatever that measure is, just water quality improvements. The next thing that we heard and is described in this resolution is the demolition of the house and the replacement of public restrooms and expanded parking with the available area. Fishing, one thing that we heard is a lot of people fish on this pier, so the idea of replacing the pier that we demoed already and replacing that back with a specific fishing pier was attractive, and to make sure that that fishing pier was something that didn't attract boaters. So the boaters have their expanded boating dock that we've already replaced. So whatever we do to make a fishing pier, to have it separate from the boating traffic. And then one thing that I thought was interesting myself, but is discussed, was a pavilion. We have pavilions at a lot of our passive parks. Was that something of interest to the community? And there was a pretty loud resounding no, because again, their goal is as a community that this is first a boat landing area, not a passive park. There was discussion around having a pavilion area at the end of the fishing pier, so you could get out of the weather. So that's something that could be contemplated. And then just access inside the boat landing, how you park and get to the actual boat dock. That was something that was discussed. And then adjacent to this is a beach access. So we already had information back from DNR and OCRM, not DNR, OCRM, that we weren't going to be able to replenish the beach renourishment project just due to the marsh trying to retake that area. So that wasn't something that they would look favorably upon in a permitting process. But anything we can do to enhance the accommodations that are there and coordinating that with the existing parking that's there. Again, they didn't want to encourage park-like activities, but what they have if it can be improved. So those were the things that we heard, and we tried to memorialize through this resolution. What we would do next is then start the engineering process, go out for solicitation, and actually develop this as a project. Once we have an engineer onboarded, then we would come back with these components and start some cost estimating to evaluate the things that we've heard versus the dollars that we have. And then there will be more community input as well as coming back to committee and council various times throughout the project. So with that, we'll gladly take any questions, but that was the recap of that meeting and the intent of this resolution in front of you.
Are there any questions for him in particular? Paula, I know you had some concerns previous about the demolition.
I object to bullet point number 3 that's up there, demolishing the house and for restrooms. Why can't we just put portable restrooms in, bathrooms?
Yeah, so the intent,
Get the house and rent it or something? I mean,
Because when I first came on county council 2 years ago, I think we paid like 1.8 million for this property, is that correct? And we got a good deal on it, right? Because it was like, it appraised like 2 point something million. I don't know my exact numbers,
Correct,
but
yes.
I,
And we paid
something
1.8
roughly,
though,
right?
correct.
And now we're going to tear down $1 million house because we got $1.2 million from the state to build restrooms. So I object to that.
Ms. Brown, do you want to make any motions to amend, or?
Well, let me just finish then. First is that we heard in the meeting with the Alljoy folks that parking was the most important thing. That house, and again, I've had discussions with folks down there, that house is an older house. It would never meet ADA regulations if we decided to keep it. And the other issue is if we try to use it for something, that means that there's going to be parking associated with it that's going to eat up parking that comes along with the landing. So, and then for us to actually also do the bathrooms that are down there, we need a sewer, not sewer, but a septic system that this house has. And that's, again, to put these bathrooms in, which is, again, another thing we heard from folks, is to have a bathroom facility down there. Eventually, we're going to have sewer to that area, but it might be years away. So we'd like to have bathroom facilities before this. So representing that area, and again, I appreciate you being at that meeting that we had for Alljoy, and you were there. The maintenance on this house and what we'd have to do right now to fix it up, to make it so we could rent it, it would be very expensive, and then for us to continue to do that maintenance, whenever we heard that what they want is more parking and that Alljoy boat landing area. So long-term, you think about parking for years to come, we're not going to be able to gain this property back if we sell it. And that's something that's very, very much needed in Bluffton. We only have 3 landings right now, which is the Oyster Company, Alljoy, and then Sawmill Creek. So again, we're very limited, so we have to take advantage of what we have and expand what we can. So the house being older, the value is in the property. That's what the value.
The land?
The land, yes.
The land.
The land is where the value is, and it's, in my opinion, it's not in the house. It's actually in the property itself and having, water view and being right there at the landing. So I understand what you're saying, but again, I think the long term, it is a much, much viable, better financial situation and better for the people of Alljoy for us to look at raising the house and expanding the boat landing.
Okay. So I guess my question to you, Mr. Olson, would be, since Alljoy is your district, and I have just a little slice of it, and you know the temperature of the people there, do the people want the house, the majority of the people want tore down so they can have more parking and restrooms?
And we heard this at the meeting, was that majority of people were glad and happy that we're actually going to keep the house and to tear it down and expand then the parking and the bathrooms and all that down there.
They were happy about it?
Yes, yes. And that, Jared, that's what you
Yeah, and the
got.
majority, we actually kind of old-fashioned raised hands just to visibly see.
Right.
And it was a large part of the room
Okay.
appreciated expanded parking in the bathrooms.
Because I just received emails, and I don't know.
And obviously, something, we'll get the plan back and we'll see what the options are. Right now, we're still in that planning stage.
Okay, all right.
Is that, Jared and I have talked about this, and I've talked to folks down there too that have reached out to me, is the fact that we'd make sure that we would buffer the houses that are right there with some landscaping, fence and things like
Oh,
that.
okay, all
So
right.
then it would be something that would be aesthetically pleasing for those couple houses that are right there. I think that was the only complaint that I heard from 1 or 2 people who live right there was, well, if you take that down, well, then the boat landing's gonna be in my front yard. But again, if we do the right thing and handle it correctly, we can screen it from those areas.
So, okay. So Jerry,
Is there any further discussion on this matter? Yeah, for this one, why don't we do a show of hands? All in favor, raise your hands. And I don't see Logan. Oh, there's Logan. Okay, gotcha. All right. So I believe that's just one objection?
yes.
Okay, that's Ms. Brown objecting. All right, so it does pass, and we'll go on to council. Moving forward now to item 10, an ordinance authorizing the county administrator to... Yep, sorry. Oh, where's,
Where's he?
I don't see Mich...
That must be the light.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Dawson, didn't see you there. I can just see your forehead. There we go. Can't hear you. I can hear you, but can't see you.
And so if I can get Sarah to get somebody to give me some help over here, I'll be in and out of the meeting. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. I can hear you. I just can't, I can't get.
Did you have anything to say about this item 9 before we move on to 10?
David, did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I said, I'm good. I'm on board with it.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. All right, so moving on to item 10, which is an ordinance authorizing the county administrator to execute any and all necessary documents for the transfer of right-of-way back to property owners of parcel R1100080000, 0653-000, or tract 13, parcel R1100080000, 0654, 0000, or tract 12, parcel R1100080000, 0656, 0000, or tract 10, and parcel R1100080000, 0658, 0000, or tract 8, as shown on Exhibit A, pages 1 through 4, associated with Rebo Road Sidewalk Project in Port Royal. Brian, can I get a motion to open discussion?
I'll make a motion to open discussion.
Second on that?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Brian?
So this is the Reebok Road sidewalk that goes from Ron Lane to Lenore Drive. This was part of the 2018 sales tax. Part of that project included the relocation and reconstruction of a wooden privacy fence next to the sidewalk. So we gained right away from the property owners there to build that fence. Several of the property owners have now sold, and it turns out that the fence was on the DOT right away, and they've refused to accept responsibility ownership of that fence. So this is to return about 70 square foot of right away to 4 different parcels, tract 8, 10, 12, and 13. So the DOT will then take the sidewalk into their maintenance system.
You don't want to read the numbers?
Trying to keep it quick.
Is there any discussion on this matter?
These are, just to clarify, these are the condos that are on
Yes, ma'am.
Reebok Road that back up?
Yes, ma'am.
And the sidewalk's been completed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep, okay.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, seeing no further questions or discussion on this matter, can this be moved forward without objection? Seeing no objection, this will be moved forward to County Council. Moving to item number 11 is a resolution to adopt the Low Country Council of Governments Safety Action Plan and Target Zero Policy. May I have a motion
I'll make the motion.
and a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Brian, it's all yours again.
So on this one, the Low Country Council of Governments, LCOG, and their planning arm, LATS, Low Country Area Transit Study, received a Safe Streets for All grant to develop a transportation safety action plan. So that plan came in, they looked at the statistics of the 4-county area and gave a lot of really great information on our roadway safety in the county, and also along with it gave a number of projects and recommendations for the roadway system locally to improve safety and looking at high crash areas. Part of that was also a pledge to adopt the Target Zero policy, which has been adopted by federally by FHWA and at the state level by SCDOT, that says, to work and with the goal of getting as close to zero fatalities and severe crashes as possible, while keeping in mind that drivers do make mistakes and we should try to plan for that. So LCOG and LATS have adopted this by resolution, so this is bringing this forward to adopt in the county as moving forward. And this will help us, just having the plan regionally will help us if we go for federal grants, especially like Safe Streets for All. And if we adopt it, we'll just give it more backing for it.
Are there any questions for Brian about this? Anybody online? No? Seeing no questions or further discussion, can this be moved forward without objection? All right, seeing no objection, it is approved. Moving on to item 12, traffic calming improvements in the Shell Point neighborhood. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
I'll make a motion for discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, Brian, it's yours again.
So this one goes back a little ways, but the residents in the Shell Point area have looked at our raised concerns about speeding and safety in the Shell Point area, specifically Shell Point Drive, Broad River Drive, and Dogwood Street. These are all DOT roads. The DOT traffic calming policy says it then goes to the municipality to look at traffic calming. So 2 different studies have been completed on this, and out of that came recommendation for 7 speed humps and 1 raised intersection. And so as part of the DOT traffic calming policy, you have to have a petition of the homeowners or a resolution from council requesting the traffic calming. So this is going to be that resolution to request the traffic calming to then go to DOT for approval of the traffic calming plan.
Yeah, I actually do have a question. Is there any cost associated with this right now, or just the?
No funds for it.
Not right
No,
now.
just-
This is just to move forward with the plan to then, so we can look at the encroachment permit for it. But yeah, there's no funding for the actual construction of it right now.
Are there any further questions or discussion about this matter?
Just that this has been a need for a long time. When they built the Montessori school, it caused a lot of traffic issues, plus that road, Broad River Road, is a road that people like to speed on. There's been several bad accidents on it.
I know this has come up. Hopefully things will move forward.
I just add that although there's no funding, this is the next step. We can't move forward with the next steps to get the encroachment permit and move forward until, we have this resolution.
Yes.
I questioned whether the CTC could provide funding.
That's,
And
it's
I'm
on-
sorry I missed the meeting, but I
Yeah.
would have raised it there.
Yeah, that's a conversation we could have at the next retreat, which is on February 5th for the CTC. Yes.
So it's going to be discussed, okay?
Yeah, we can bring that up.
Thanks.
Chairman. Yes, ma'am.
I'll be there.
Is there any further discussion or questions regarding this matter? And can this be moved forward without objection? I can't see the folks online. Is there any objection online?
No objections.
Okay, thank you. Where did Logan go? Keep losing folks. Logan, any objection? Okay, all right, so we'll move this forward. I don't see any objection. And moving on to the next item here, item 13, authorize the administrator to execute a memorandum of understanding between Beaufort County and the Palmetto Clean Fuels Coalition. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
A motion.
All right, Ms. Brown with a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawson. Brian, I believe you're still up.
So the Palmetto Clean Fuels Coalition was started by the State Office of Energy. It's one of 100 coalitions in the state. This is, the county actually became a stakeholder in 2013, but it was not moved forward by resolution. They have updated the MOU for to be a stakeholder in the coalition, so this is bringing this forward to get that memorandum of understanding readopted through resolution to continue as a stakeholder. There's no fiscal responsibility or responsibility for it. It basically gives notice of research projects, grant funding, and things like that. So,
Any questions or further discussion about this matter? Seeing no further discussion, can this be moved forward without objection? Any objection or any comments from folks online? All right, with no objection, this will be moved forward. Thank you. Moving on to item 14, sole source contract award to Pavement Technology Incorporated for Year 8 Rejuvenator. It looks like the fiscal impact here is going to be $440,062.77. The contract fee is for materials and construction in the amount of $400,057.07. Staff also recommends a 10% contingency of $40,005.71, bringing the total project cost to $440,062.77. And the funding for this project will be from the CTC infrastructure account with a balance of $5,541,909.41. May I have a motion and
I'll
a
make the
second?
motion.
All right, Ms. Tabernack with the motion, is there a second?
Second it.
And Ms. Brown with the second. Brian, I think you're still up.
Yep, that's me. So this makes up one of the 3 contracts we do annually for our resurfacing program. One is our standard resurfacing, which is just regular hot mix asphalt. Second one is pavement preservation, and then asphalt rejuvenator is the third one. So this is basically, we come back a couple years after paving a road, and this is a topical treatment that goes on, and it adds some nutrients and flexibility back to the road to help prevent future cracking and distresses to it. It's supposed to add 3 to 5 years onto the life of the road for a fraction of the cost of doing other preservation techniques. I think the price we got this year was $1.23 a square yard versus anything else, which is $7 a square yard. So this has been something that we've done in the county going back to 2017, 2018. It is a proprietary material, and Pavement Technologies is the only one that is licensed to apply it in the Southeast, which is why it is a sole source procurement.
Say, I'm glad you answered that, because I'm sure Tab was going to ask about the sole
Well,
source.
but I know that from the CTC and from Jared, so it is proprietary and.
And this
that's why
has been
sole source.
approved at the CTC in January to
Yep.
come forward to
Sole
y'all.
source.
Are there any questions or further discussion about this? What about the folks online? I can't see anybody online. Are you okay? You're okay?
I'm good,
Any-
Dave. I'm
Anything
good,
from
Dave.
folks online?
No,
Dave?
sir.
There, Logan?
Dave, can you hear me?
All right, seeing no further discussion or questions, can this be moved forward without objection? Seeing no objection, this will be moved forward. I believe that's all from the engineering department, and now moving forward to the Public Works Department items. Item 15 is the approval of a task order to J.H. Hires Incorporated of Beaufort, South Carolina, for Hickory Hill Drainage Improvements Project. The fiscal impact is $303,831, coming from the stormwater utility account, and the available funds are $1,671,495.87. And I believe, Mr. Harriet, are you going to be doing the presentation? Can I get a motion
I'll make
and
the
a second? All right. Tab with the motion.
second.
Second, Tom with the second. All right. Bradley, it's all yours.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, committee. Yes, so this is a project that was identified during the St. Helena Island overall drainage study. There were several items that were discovered, but this was one of the major ones. So basically what we're doing is going in there and upgrading the infrastructure in those 2 highlighted areas you see there in yellow. So we're going to increase the size of the piping, I think from 36 inch to 48 inch to improve that drainage in those 2 areas. And then that last little piece of red there to the end, the kind of long highlighted piece, that section actually goes through a property owners there, and it's a really deep ditch. Believe it or not, we do have deep ditches on St. Helena. So the deep ditch there that we're actually going to pipe in, because it's just too deep for us to maintain and too dangerous for us to maintain with equipment. So we're going to pipe that in to make that an easier maintained easement there.
Is there any questions or discussions about this matter?
Can I just add one
By all
thing?
means.
Between item 15 and 16, if you have the ability, Mr. Harriet, to segue to hires and what we're doing in Bay Pines, I'd like to get an update on it as well, if you have it, based on the same type. Okay, thank you.
Not right now, Tom. I think we're going to stick to the task at hand.
Okay.
We'll make sure to just ask that later, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
All right, is there any questions from anybody online? All right, any further questions or discussion? Seeing no further questions or discussion?
Oh, I do have
Oh,
one
yeah.
question. I think at agenda review, we talked about this bid was put out twice.
This is a different one. The next one is the one that was put out
Twice.
twice.
Okay.
The Tuxedo Park. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Harriet, I just want to say thank you. I was there at that meeting with you, and I know the community members will greatly appreciate this moving forward, so thank you for bringing this to our attention. With no further questions or discussion, can this be moved forward without objection?
Yes.
All right, moving on to item 16, the approval of a task order to JH Hires Incorporated of Beaufort, South Carolina for Tuxedo Park Detention Pond Rehabilitation Project. Looks like the fiscal impact is $474,590.88, funded through the stormwater utility account. Looks like, once again, the available balance is $1,671,495.87. May I have a motion and a second to open up discussion?
I'll make a motion to open up discussion.
All right, thank you. In a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Bradley, it's all yours again.
Yeah, so this is a project, again, identified through a drainage study on the northern Ladies Island area. This was one of those kind of big-ticket items. It's an area, there's a bunch of little, small areas they pick out, but we try to pick the bigger areas, going to have the most impact, get the most bang for your buck. So this area is it's a retention pond that was, diked off, back in the probably 60s or so. So anyhow, a pond is silted in over the years. So a lot of drainage goes through this pond. It's silted in over the years, so it's taken up a lot of the capacity. So basically what we're trying to do is we're going to excavate this. I think the total yardage was about 6,000 cubic yards, somewhere around that number, that we're going to take out of that pond to create that much more storage for that area. And Ms. Tab, to answer this one had went out for bid prior to twice, and it was over budgeted twice. I think we had kind of put it out for budget as a dredging project. So typically dredging projects, you don't see dredging in interior ponds like this, in this line of work. Usually you dewater the pond and then go in and just excavate the dirt and haul the material out. So I think that's why it was running over budget on those two things, because dredging gets pretty expensive, because you have to store all the material and do something with the wet material. So we're going to dewater the pond and then haul it out. And this also will replace the Tuxedo Park entrance. The asphalt in there is pretty old. So it's, when we go to haul that material out there, or the contractor hauls out there, they're going to tear those roads up. I mean, it's just going to tear the asphalt up. So we did figure into that price to go ahead and repave that road when the construction's finished.
Is there any further discussion or questions?
Just a real quick question.
Yeah.
So the spoils, is it usable spoils, or are we paying
But
to?
we're gonna haul it to a county facility actually out on St. Helena. We have a piece of property out on St. Helena Island that we haul our spoils out of our roadside ditches. So hopefully if the material, probably the top 18 inches material is probably not suitable, but below that, it's probably good sand. So depending on how far we can get to where we get down to the, we call kind of river mud layer, if we get into that material won't be suitable, so we may just use it, we got a spoil area, out at Shanklin Root, we'll haul it. But if it's good material, we'll stockpile it, screen it, and, use it for structural fill somewhere.
Good, thank you.
Any further questions? Anything from anybody online? All right, seeing nothing, can this move forward without objection? All right, this is approved without objection. Thank you, Mr. Harriet. And I think that's all from Public Works as well, isn't it?
Sir,
All right. And we're going to be moving into the items coming from the Airport Department. And item number 17 is Airport Capital Improvement Program List for Beaufort Executive Airport. May I have a motion and a second to open up discussion? Don't
I'll
everybody
make that
jump in.
motion.
All right,
Second,
thank you.
second that.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson and Mr. Reed. All right, hey, John, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
We did a lot of snow and ice chipping last week and got everything back underway, so it's kind of interesting. But this is just informational item for you, as is the next one, which is the CIP list for Hilton Head Island Airport. We try to get this in front of you each year just so you have an idea of what each of the airports plans for the next 5 to 6. Sometimes we look out 7 or 8 years. And we work together with the FAA to put this plan together, and it kind of gives the FAA an idea of what we want to work on. It's in keeping with kind of what their understanding of the plans that the airport needs to be for infrastructure improvements, and then it helps them allocate very scarce federal dollars to airports. To give you an idea of the amount of money that the FAA has for projects across the entire country in a given year, it's been held steady at about $3.35 billion for the entire United States for years and years. It was the FAA Reauthorization Act that was approved last May increased it to $4 billion. So it's $4 billion spread across, like 3,500 commercial airports plus all the GA airports in the country. So it gets pretty thin. So consequently, we put together these CIP lists and that just helps the FAA program the dollars. And the way this works is we'll submit that we've already submitted these to the FAA. We've already met with the FAA a couple of times on these projects for both airports, and they typically don't really get solidified until March or April of any given year, and that's when grant applications start to be submitted to the FAA. But it's a little bit of a living, working document, but like I said, it's a planning document for both the FAA and for the airports as far as the infrastructure projects go. And I can explain a little bit, if it's a little bit difficult to kind of see what the headings mean across the top, but there's basically a project description at the far left, or the far left is the fiscal year that we talk about, and again, that's a federal fiscal year, not our county fiscal year. And then there's a project name and a little bit of a description. Some are easier to really interpret than others. There's a total project cost in the next column, and then there's a breakdown of funding sources. And the FAA, the first two columns there, the AIP entitlements and the BIL AIG, those are both FAA pots of money. The BIL AIG was part of that law that was passed in 2021, and that expires theoretically. We don't know if that'll be renewed or not, but it'll expire, I think, in 26. So there's at least this coming year, and there might be one more year coming with that. Then the next column is state participation. That's South Carolina Aeronautics Commission, and they help us out on infrastructure projects as well. Then when you see that sponsor column, that's the airport. So that's the airport's share of the project costs. And then we've got PFC funds there, but for Beaufort Executive, there are no PFC funds as a commercial airport item, but it's on all their the spreadsheets for the FAA. Then that far right column, that additional funds needed, that is the amount of money that basically the airports are going to need to compete for amongst all the rest of the airports in the southeast. So we work with the FAA in Atlanta, but they've got to look at all their airports that they're in charge of, or that they are helping out with these projects, and then allocate those scarce dollars. So this is how we kind of come together and figure out where we're going to shake the dollars out to make the projects happen.
Any questions or discussions?
So, Mr. Rimbold, if I look at 2027, that's a big ticket, 4 million, and you're saying we still need to come up with 3.75 million.
Well, the we would be the FAA. Yes, so this will be,
FAA, okay.
right, so the way that'll break down is that final column, that 3.75 million is what we would make a request to the FAA for out of discretionary money. That's why that's there specifically years ahead of time, so they know that we've got a big project coming and they can start looking at funding. And if they can't find it, then we start working together ahead of time, and if they say, hey, we're not going to have that money, we start working a little more closely with the state perhaps, or a lot of times at a general aviation airport, unfortunately, you move that to the right and you wait, because I don't want to broach the hangar project now, but that's one of the reasons to generate more activity out there, is so that we don't have quite the gap in these funding requests.
It looks like our participation is equal to the state.
Correct.
Okay.
And the way that works is usually a 90% FAA and then 5% us, 5% state.
All right, anything further? Anything from anyone online? All right, thank you. Since there's no action to be taken, it's just an update, we'll move on to item 18, which is Airport Capital Improvement Program list for Hilton Head Island Airport. Can I get a motion and a second to open discussion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, basically the same thing as we had for Beaufort Executive Airport. Well, this one's a little bit more complicated, a few more projects there, bigger dollar amounts there, and it's a commercial airport, so there's a little bit more funding opportunity there from the FAA. At Hilton Head Island Airport, the entitlement money or the annual funding that comes from the FAA is based on the number of passengers who are enplaned at the airport. So that differs from airport to airport. And then, of course, that highlighted section is that BIL AIG, so that's the additional funding that comes as part of that 2021 legislation. But you can see pretty big projects that are planned out there at Hilton Head Island. The FAA reauthorization bill that was passed actually increased the FAA's participation as well for fiscal years 25 and 26 from 90% to 95. So that'll be nice. So we'll have 5% participation from us at the airport. The difference between General Aviation Airport at Beaufort Executive and Hilton Head Island Airport is the state does not participate anymore in our infrastructure projects. They do provide some annual funding at a level that we can use that funding for any types of projects at the airport. So we do kind of factor that in there. You will still see the state participation, but it comes in a kind of a different tranche than it comes at the General Aviation Airport. But it's, by and large, this process is pretty much the same between the General Aviation and commercial airports.
Thank you. Are there any questions or further discussion? What about any from folks online? I can't see. Can you see them, Sarah? Any questions online? All right. Once again, no actions needed. John, thank you for the update, and we'll move on to the next one, to the capital improvement project items, which leads us into item 19, the approval of a task order to J.H. Hires Construction for construction services to repair the drainage system at the Charles Lynn Brown Community Center. The fiscal impact is $186,948.06, and the funding is coming from the Parks and Recreation Capital Fund with a current balance of $9,658,107.06. Robert, can I get a motion and a second to open discussion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Robert, saw you.
Good evening, and for those I haven't met, I'm Robert Getze. I'm the Interim Director for Capital Projects. So, this is a continuation of the drainage repair at Charles Lynn Brown along the pool deck that adjoins the building. The building was built in 1977, and the pool was added around late 90s, early 2000s, if I recall correctly. The drainage system was inadequate for heavy rainfall. Certainly for pool deck overflow, it was sufficient, but it gets clogged up. It was much too small. So when we have large rains, it was flowing into the back of the building. The phase one of this project was successfully completed with J.H. Hires. It was originally put out for bid. We received no respondents. There was a lot of concern about what was under the pool deck, I think is the reason why people were not willing to come in to bid it. We had quite a bit of interest. J.H. Hires came in and successfully completed the project. We later found that there were issues along the remaining portion of the pool deck that adjoins the gymnasium and the recently renovated dance room that's along the back there. This would complete that project and allow for us to continue also with the other renovations that we are doing to the interior, which include a new hardwood maple floor that's contract is already out on. So we certainly don't want to have drainage issues when we're putting in a brand new floor in the gymnasium.
Any questions or further discussion on this matter? Yes.
So this is the final phase then for the exterior, as far as we can tell, that no more money will be spent on drainage at this time?
Along the pool deck. So this completes 100% of the pool deck drainage system, and it will. It is a 12-inch, originally it was a 4-inch drain system. It gets clogged up with leaves very easily, as you can imagine, with just a small outlet like that. So this is actually a 12-inch drainage system, and it has worked, knock on wood, flawlessly along the first 100 feet that we did along the back wall. We have had zero issues since that.
This can be approved at committee level, correct?
That's correct.
Is there any questions or comment from folks online? Sarah? All right. Questions? All right. Seeing none, can this be moved forward without objection? Actually, it doesn't need to be moved forward. Can this be approved without objection? All right. It is approved without objection. Thank you. Moving on to item 20 is the contract award to Scott Equipment and Surfacing for IFB number 112124, Charles Lynn Brown Center Gymnasium upfit, basketball goals, scoreboards, and bleachers. Fiscal impact is $168,850, and the funding comes from the Parks and Recreation Capital Fund with a current balance of $9,658,107.06. May I have a motion and a second to open up discussion?
I'll make a motion, to open up discussion. Yeah.
Second it.
All right, sounds good. Robert?
So this is, again, some renovations that were noted that needed to be for this facility. Of course, we inherited this facility in the 90s from the city of Beaufort. It was turned over to Beaufort County. It has, over the years, seen very little, let's say, maintenance and upkeep to some of the areas. The basketball goals, for example, are original to the gymnasium. The bleachers that were installed in 1977 were actually condemned in 1979 and are unsafe. So, things like that we need to make sure that we are addressing. The scoreboards no longer work, and with the recent renovations that we did in 2023, we've seen quite a bit of new traffic to the facility. It's had vast improvement, and with the public especially, and the Friends of Charles Lynn Brown have certainly been pushing to get some of these renovations done. This would help, again, facilitate the programs at the center.
Any questions or further discussion on this matter?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you commented that the bleachers were installed in 1977 and were condemned and ruled hazardous in 79.
By the manufacturer, that's correct.
Yeah, so we haven't been using them?
Limited as much as possible because they were basically grandfathered in, but they were by the manufacturer deemed hazardous and should have been replaced long, long ago.
I'd just like to comment, my daughter learned to play basketball there, and they were using the bleachers in 1991.
Yep.
But this is long overdue. So.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
Is there anything from anybody online? All right. I actually would just like to say a comment. I used to live right across the street from the Charles Lynn Brown Center, the Green Street Gym, and I just want to thank you for everything, all the hard work that's going in out there. I know the community appreciates it, and it's a wonderful project, and good to see this moving forward, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, actually, before it moves forward, is there any objection to moving this, to approving this?
Yeah, we can approve.
Yeah, we can approve it here. Is there any objection to approving it? All right, seeing no objection, this is approved. Thank you. Moving into item 21, contract award to Mitchell Brothers Incorporated for IFB 111924, construction renovation of the administration building and county council chambers. The fiscal impact for this is going to be $1,043,059.61, and the funding comes from the Facility Management Capital Fund with a current balance of $2,781,830.69. May I have a motion and second
I'll
to open
motion
discussion? All right, thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And Robert, once again, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. And this has been a long-awaited project. So this has been several years in the making. There's been about 6 different changes to the plans over that period, and I think we finally come to a final plan that's going to work for everyone. So what I'll do is I wanted to run down some of the scope of the project just to give some details on the renovation itself. No fancy 3D renderings or anything like that. I'm going to go down and kind of give you area by area and talk about what's being done. One of the most notable, and you can see up at the entry vestibule there, is that we're going to be taking out the 3rd set of doors that were installed when we initially were putting in the X-ray and metal detection system. So that will eliminate that 3rd set as you come in, and we will also be moving the administration hall door, which is in the top left corner there. That will be moved back and the wall removed and the column removed, opening up the lobby a little more so that we'll be able to have future reception or kiosk in that area. There will certainly be area for chairs and waiting in that area also. All new flooring, all new paint. And on the right, you can see actually that there's office space there that is going to be added that was previously HR years ago, but that will be added back in, adding additional office space. There will be a total of 9 new office spaces actually added during construction. So I'll run down real quick as we go. So we've got in the broadcast service area, we will be, and clerk of court area, we will be putting in new office space along there with additional storage. And that will also take us down admin hall with all, again, new flooring, new paint, new finishes, new ceiling grids, new lighting, new LED lighting throughout. There will be a break room that will be added next to the ECR. The kitchen in the ECR is going to be removed for additional space. And the ECR will, of course, also be renovated with new chairs and a new conference table. Then on to the planning side, we are also renovating the planning, but it's basically we're doing flooring, finishes again, paint, ceiling tiles. They are taking out a small wall up there at their front desk is the only real structural change, and then we are enclosing the IT rack that is in there, with just a small enclosure to keep things out so it can keep cool appropriately. And then the major renovation to the council chambers. So we are going to be basically gutting most of the council chambers. It is going to receive all new flooring, again, paint, all new woodwork. You'll receive new desk for the clerk of court and county administrator's desk. The dais will be rebuilt with all new finishes. And there will also be the podium. We will receive a new podium, very similar to this, actually, in the design, that it will have a drawer for the Elmo to be used, also a fold-out table for the side if anyone has any additional documents and things like that. It will be on wheels, and it will also be closer to the dais, so it will allow additional space up front, and it will be more projected as far as right up on the dais itself. So we're moving it about 3 feet forward. It's going to be nice. It is a lot of work. We had several local companies. I was very excited to see. We had 2 bids from local companies, and Mitchell Brothers was the low bid, and we're looking forward to working with them.
Any questions or discussion? Yes.
So when's the last time it was renovated?
I do not have an answer for you on that one. I can certainly find out a little more, but I am not sure when, if
Tell you,
ever.
the restrooms look like they're from 1970.
Yes.
I was going to say the restrooms are included as part of this.
Yes,
I knew they
all-
were, but I just had to throw
We've
that
received
out for
some
Mrs. Brown.
complaints.
So,
How long will this take? Because we're going to have to move out of chambers.
yes, that's correct.
And you might want to talk about where we're going to have to go.
So it's going to take up to 6 months. We've got 180 days for the contract award, if I'm not mistaken. And so we have space set aside in Arthur Hall, well, as far as council meetings. So again, that will be kind of up to administration to determine, I guess, again, Hilton Head and other places.
I think we're going to the school media center, are we not, for the ones up there?
Yes, ma'am, that's what we have set up, is that y'all are going to be utilizing their meeting space during this transition.
And we still have ones on the road too, but we'll be using theirs, yeah. Okay.
So just looking at the plans, it looks like if this is drawn to scale, that we're going to end up with only 40 seats for folks. Do you think that's correct, or is that?
No, I think that was really just the architects, throwing in seating in there. We're actually going to be gaining some space moving forward. So whatever is in there currently, plus about 2 rows, I believe. Yep.
Is there any questions or comments from folks online? See anything? All right. Anything else from the group here? All right. Seeing no further discussion, can this be approved without objection? Yes. All right. Seeing no objection, this is approved and will move forward to council. Moving into item 22, contract award to Beaufort Construction of SC LLC for IFB 101824 Bluffton Community Center renovation. Looks like the fiscal impact is going to be $618,420. And the funding comes from the Parks and Recreation Capital Fund with a current balance of $9,658,107.06. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Sounds good. And Robert, it's all yours again.
Again, this is a renovation to the Bluffton Community Center, a much-needed renovation that's going to put in a new elevator and along with interior upgrades, mechanical, electrical, new flooring, painting, and interior surfaces, and also ceiling tiles will be replaced as well. We put this out for bid. We received several qualified bids, and Beaufort Construction came in as the low bidder at $562,000.
Anybody have any questions regarding this matter? Any discussion or comments? What about from the folks online? No. Sounds good. Can this be moved forward without objection?
Yes.
All right, seeing no objection, this will be moved forward. And moving into item 23, contract award to Mitchell Brothers Construction Incorporated for IFB 101724, Booker T. Washington Community Center renovation, with a fiscal impact of $446,899. And the funding comes from the Parks and Recreation Capital Fund with a current balance of $9,658,107.06. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
Make that motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawson. And a
I'll second.
All right, thank you. And Robert, it's all yours again.
Again, another community center that's long overdue for some renovations. The Booker T. Washington Community Center has needed interior upfit for quite some time. Again, we're going to be doing similar items, electrical, upgraded kitchen, along with countertops, flooring, interior surfaces, etc. We will also be looking to renovate the restrooms, bring it into ADA compliance as well. Again, we had the successful bid package. We received 4 bids, again, and Mitchell Brothers was the low bid at $446,899.
All right, any questions, discussion, comments?
Can you hear me, Dave?
Yes, sir.
This is Councilman Gerald Dawson.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate staff moving this forward to start the renovation for the Booker T. Washington Center. With all the upgrade and the renovation that is going to be done, I would caution us or ask us to consider the interior renovation that is being done is good, and you're putting in new fixtures, particularly the restrooms and the sinks and stuff. But until we do something with the outside well, the well water actually has rust in it, so it rusts the fixtures. And I would encourage staff to also move forward with installing a deep well rather than just remaining with the shallow well that's there. Because if not, we're just going to, within a matter of time, the new bathroom fixtures and stuff will be badly stained, and you'll have to take them out and keep going through that process. If we just go ahead now and do the deep well, which gives the deeper and cleaner water without the rust in it, you won't have that problem.
It would take further investigation to understand the issue. We have a similar problem at Charles Lynn Brown. What it is that we have iron piping that is rusted, and I can't say that a well would completely solve the problem if the piping is not replaced, because that is the source of the rust coming in at Charles Lynn Brown, and we've faced the same issues, and facilities goes in and cleans them as needed. We just installed some new fixtures there, and they are. There's not a whole lot that we can do about the piping unless we go in and tear up a lot of areas. And again, I would have to look at this situation to have more clarity, but we will certainly investigate, and I'll work with facilities to see if they have a solution.
Well, if you would, I'd like to have an offline conversation with you that we can further discuss this matter.
Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate that.
Lawson, Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, just a quick question, and I'm sure that, Mr. Gacy, we've looked into this. I'm just asking, just because it's my job to ask, this is an older building, so we've done the asbestos tests and all those things that we need to do to make sure that none of that is there that's going to add cost or add length of time to this construction?
That is correct. So before moving forward with any of this, before we even go to the bid process, we have typically done that already.
Good, thank you.
Sometimes we have come in the past and had to have, let's say, re-up it if it's gone over a certain amount of time. And if you have a different company that comes in, they may find different areas, but should not be any issues. It has been done on this one recently.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, any questions from folks online? All right, can this be moved forward without objection? All right, seeing no objection, this will be moved forward. Thank you. And moving on to item 24, contract award to Fraser Construction and Court Atkins Group for IFB number 061824, Station 39 for the design portion of this design build project. Fiscal impact is $397,528.41, and funding will be from a GEO bond with a current balance of $230,383.56. May I have a motion?
I will make that motion,
All right,
please.
perfect, thank you. What about a
You
second?
knew that.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, what about a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. And Robert, it's all yours again.
This is for Station 39, of course, at Sun City. And again, as you can see in the notes, to help improve response time to that area. This is for the design portion only of this project. It was put out as a design build, and Fraser Construction and Court Atkins were chosen. Again, this will be just for the design portion.
I have a question. I think I was impressed you received 7 bids. Usually I have to say, why didn't we get more than 1 bid, but you received 7 bids here.
A lot of time on A&E, though, we will typically receive more bids than construction bids, though. So you have a lot more firms that are out there that are bidding for projects especially like this. So the construction market is quite different. So it's hard when you have more firms, let's say, that are eager for these projects, and with construction, we have a lot of companies who are overwhelmed and either don't want to bid at the time or just can't bid, that they don't have time to do the projects. We're seeing that the market over the last year, though, has kind of corrected itself. We are getting a lot more bids, and also I attribute that to our new software with OpenGov. We were able to reach a broader market, and we have seen, for the most part, that the majority of our projects where we were receiving none or one bid on some projects that we felt like, it had a lot of interest, and now we're seeing a lot more bids coming in. So
What's the span of time for this design build?
I would have to defer that. Again, Mr. Amundson may have a little more insight into that, but as far as the
He's like,
design.
No, I don't. In other words, when does a shovel go in the ground? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it can take some time. So it can be months. It can be months through the design process, and then then we've got to put the rest of it back out there for Court Atkins and Fraser Construction, and come back with a number. So.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I actually do have a question for you. I believe this has been discussed before, but is there a way, instead of having to spend this much money on individualized plans, that we could get a set of plans for things that we know we're going to be building more of? Pavilions, these fire stations, and that way we have a set to choose from and fit to the project at hand, rather than having to go back and spend this money over and over again.
Yeah, that's fine.
I did ask that question.
This specific project, and I think your second part of the question is something that's doable. There's always some design required for how you attach to the ground, what the stability is, what the different wind loads, et cetera. But there can be some basis. This originally came to us, we work in conjunction with Bluffton Township, and they have a similar station that they really like. And so we visited that station. We thought about doing it as a sole source design. It came in. The discussion was a little bit high. We didn't feel comfortable coming to you guys with a sole source design. So we put it out there as a design build so people could team up with builders and then come in. I think that's part of what helped generate the interest into this bidding. The initial thought was that we'd save a bunch of money on the design because they'd done one before, but unless you own those plans,
That's what I'm
it doesn't matter.
But
we did actually, through the bid process and the negotiations, bring this design price down in the award process. So this was lower than the initial bid actually was.
So can you now own this design for they're gonna keep building more.
Whole different price.
They're gonna build more stations.
So you may be able to do it with the architectural design, but the specific building code, the engineering, things of that nature that go along with the building code certification are site-specific, so you can't do that one size fits all. So a portion, maybe, the rest of it, no.
So it's not proprietary, in other words, we could maybe use it again, part of it.
That would be up to whatever we put in the contract with the architect that allows that, and you would be paying for that additional use, and you would probably have to have some kind of a reuse fee on a case-by-case basis, but that's, again, only for the architectural design. Anything that has to do with the circulation, path of travel, egress, building codes, any of that stuff, fire code, all of that is site-specific and would have to be redone each time.
Is there anything from anybody online? All right. Any further questions or discussions up here? All right, seeing no questions or discussion, can this be moved forward without objection?
Yes.
All right, seeing no objection, this will be moved forward. And moving into item 25, contract award to CE Bourne and Company Incorporated for IFB number 050824, Detention Center stucco repair and painting. Fiscal impact is $2,656,585, and the funding comes from the Detention Center Capital Fund with a current balance of $3,458,200. May I have a motion and a second to open up discussion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawson, and a second. Don't everybody
Second
jump.
it.
There you go. Thank you, Tab.
We'll all do it.
All right, Robert, I believe you're still up, so
All right.
the floor is yours again.
I think this is the last one, correct?
It is, yes, sir.
So this is an interesting one. This is the repair and upgrade of the exterior surface, stucco surface, or EFIS, to the detention center. I think, as we all may know, that there was considerable issues throughout the 80s and early 90s with some stucco. Beaufort County had issues with not only the courthouse, but administration building and the detention center with a stucco product. There was a settlement that was brought forward. The courthouse was completely renovated on the exterior, had a new brick facade put on. The administration building was later repaired. The detention center has not seen any repairs. And because of this, there is now birds and squirrels that are nesting in the exterior of the stucco. There are large gaps in the stucco. It'll appear as a small hole, but we did testing actually, and you may have a hole that is this big that a bird is living in, but behind that is a 4-foot cavity where they have hollowed out all of the insulation material and EFIS material behind it. So we were quite surprised when we did this study. We examined, I believe, 3 different locations around the building. This, of course, has led to significant water intrusion into the building. We feel that we had originally looked at just a patch and repair. We felt to keep with the longevity of the building that we would also apply a hardened surface to the entire exterior of the building to prevent this from happening going forward, because we could repair the areas that we have, but that does not keep it from happening to other areas. There's also significant damage from mowers and weed eating and other issues because the stucco was so thin around those areas. So again, it has caused considerable water intrusion into the building.
Any questions or discussion? What about folks online? All right. I actually have a question, and I believe it was answered already, but this is a different material. It's not stucco, right? It's a different material?
It is a different product. So it is still a stucco material. It will be a stucco finish that is going on the outside. It will have a hardened mesh, so we'll repair the holes that are there currently, and then CE Bourne will apply a hardened mesh over top of it with another stucco finish that encapsulates it. Yes.
No, I was good.
That's all right.
You'll get, you can finish, but I was just going to ask, so us applying this, we're applying this over the EFIS then. So is there a warranty that comes with a new product, or is this something that we are taking our chances and risks by going over top the existing EFS system.
Basically, this is a proven method to repair this. We are taking on the risk of possible issues still with, but it has been successful. Part of the detention center actually was done when the courthouse was renovated. So there is actually one section that was repaired, and there's a drip edge along the bottom that was placed there so that, for example, when the weed eaters come in, they actually encapsulate the block wall that's behind it. They raise the stucco up a little bit that allowed that to kind of get out of the way of damage as well. As far as an extended warranty, there is no lengthy warranty that we have. We still have a product that is defective underneath it, but this is a known solution to remedy that.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? All right. Seeing no further questions or discussion, can this be moved forward without objection?
Yes.
All right. Seeing no objections, it will be moved. Oh, yes. Yeah.
If you're done with that, before you adjourn, I want to talk about what we're doing with some of these.
Yeah, sure thing. But yeah, so seeing no objection, this will be moved forward to county council for further approval. And Chuck, yeah, if you'd like to say a few things before we adjourn?
Yes, so because this meeting was scheduled last week, normally these items would have come forward to council tonight anyway. Items 15, 16, and 21 through 25 are on tonight's agenda, council agenda, as part of the consent agenda. I don't want anybody, I just want clarity that we're moving these forward on the same day because this meeting was rescheduled. So they were already slated to be on council tonight, but this meeting was moved forward. So I just didn't want anybody to be surprised that we heard them this afternoon and moved them forward tonight without saying something.
Could you repeat those numbers again?
Yes, it's 15, 16, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. So that would be the Hickory Hill Drainage Improvement Project, Tuxedo Park Detention, and then 5 of the capital projects, the last 5 that were required to go forward to council that you just heard Robert go through.
And also, number 8 will come forward, which is a $1.2 million acceptance.
Oh, for Alljoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further
Thank you very
business
much.
come before this committee? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned at 5:08. Thank you.
We'll reconvene at 6.